Let's go over some bartending 101s. So the first thing, your best friend, which should be an extension of your hand, is your handy dandy jigger. So in this case, the jigger that I'm holding here is my personal one. The sizings are marked inside of the jigger. So this side is a 1.5 ounce marker, and that's flush to the top. What you don't want to do is you don't want to grab a bottle and pour it in halfway like this and do a dump, or pour it in, because you never know where your lines are going to fall. You want to make sure that you're holding your jigger nice and even and flat. So 1.5 ounces is here. If you look inside your jigger, each one is marked with their ounces. Once you use it a couple times, you'll learn exactly where all the markings are, and it'll be muscle memory. I know it seems easy to just free pour everything and you think that you know your count. I've bartended for over 15 years and I still am not perfect. No one is, and no one expects anyone to be. So you will never be perfect. That's why you use a jigger. Again, an extension of your hand, of your arm. So 1/2 ounce is the next line from the 1.5 ounce mark, and then there is a 3/4 ounce. If you flip it over, this is 2 ounces flush, and then 1 ounce. If a recipe calls for a 1/4 ounce, a lot of jiggers don't have a 1/4 ounce mark. So if you find your 1/2 ounce mark in here, just measure it halfway to that mark, and that is a perfect 1/4 ounce every single time. But be sure that you are using your jigger always, especially for every cocktail that is on your menu, because that cocktail will be 100% accurate and consistent every single time you make it. So that way, when your guest comes in and they order a drink and they love it, they know that they will always get the same exact cocktail every single time that they come to the restaurant. We don't want to ever see a guest getting a better cocktail from a different bartender. They should taste the exact same across the board. You should always have and be making the same exact consistent cocktail. That is very, very important. Let's talk about simple syrups. There's a couple different ways to make syrups. You can heat it on a stovetop, heat your water on a stovetop, but we don't have to do that because we have our handy dandy tea machines in our kitchen with a hot water spigot. It's important to take your cup, your measuring cup, and measure it. What we never want to do, it's very important to listen to this. When you take a quart container, let's say that this is your quart container. Now in making simple syrup, take your quart container, which is a perfect 4 cups measurement, measure out 2 cups of sugar and pour it in. And from your tea machine, measure out 2 cups of hot water. Don't eyeball it and just pour what you think is 2 cups from the machine, because that's going to over dilute your sugar and you're going to have more water in your simple syrup than you will sugar. You need to accurately measure it. So I always say it's 2 cups measured sugar and water. So many bartenders that I've seen in the past, myself included, before I really knew, I poured in 2 cups measured of sugar and just poured the rest, because I know that the rest of that volume is 2 cups, but the water is breaking the sugar down. So always remember 2 cups measured sugar and water. Stir it until the sugar's dissolved. Lightly cap it. Don't cover it completely. If you want a little steam to come out, cap it, put it in your refrigerator. Don't use it until it's nice and chilled. If you're in a pinch and you need it chilled quicker, you can throw it in the freezer if you do have space in the freezer. The same thing should go for your brown sugar simple syrup. The same exact process. You're just using brown sugar instead of your white sugar. Let's talk about prepping your mint. This is something that can go wrong or cannot hold up for a long time. So we want to make sure that we're doing it properly so that we get the most life out of our mint. So when you open your mint bag and you're prepping mint for shift, you'll notice that there's a nice sprig up top and then the rest have leaves. Now we've used the rest of these leaves for muddling, but I'm going to show you the best way to prep mint. You want to take this top sprig and cut and leave a little bit of stem. So we're going to take this and cut it. So we're left with a nice sprig. After you prep all your mint for shift, take the sprigs and dump them in an ice bath. So it's nice to get, I'm doing this in a small cup, but it's nice to get a quart container, fill it a little bit with ice and top it with water, and dump all the heads, all the mint sprig heads face down into your ice bath. And let them rest for 15, 20 minutes. Forget about them while you're doing the rest of your prep. The rest of the stem, so we don't waste anything, because we are going to use mint for muddling, pull the leaves off of that and maybe take a little small container of some sort, put a nice damp paper towel at the bottom and rest those leaves in there to keep some moisture. And that you can use for muddling for your shift, and that should last you a couple days. Always check your mint though. If there are any brown spots, deep brown spots, throw those away. You don't want to use those. You want that cocktail to be nice and green. You don't want any brown spots in there. You want to take care of your guests. You want to make sure that that drink is tasting fresh. Brown spots, no good. You want it nice and green. So after you've prepped your mint and the time has passed, 15, 20 minutes, whatever that time frame is, take the mint sprigs out. Have you a nice little warm glass. If you have a prep glass, just fill it with some warm water. You don't want it hot, but just warm. And you take your stems out, wave off the water and dump them and leave your stems prepped. They'll be prepped for your shift and stay on your bar top or wherever, maybe behind your bar, but keep them there. These will last you 2, maybe sometimes 3 days. They'll be nice and stiff and fragrant, very, very mint forward, very, very mint fragrant. That's what you want. And that you'll use for your garnishes. The rest of those mint leaves will be used for muddling. So that's the best way to have pristine and really, really good looking mint sprigs. Let's talk about dashes when it comes to using bitters. A lot of times I've noticed when bartenders grab their bottle of bitters and it says 1 dash or 4 dashes, this is what I see often. They open the bottle and they're scared of this bottle. So they do like this. And then you have bitters that shoot out to the side and barely any in the glass. But there is a slow pour on top of your bitters bottle, so you don't have to fear that too much may come out at a time. Take the bottle, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are dashes. Do not be afraid of this bottle. This slow pour right here is your best friend. Best friend when dashing bitters into a drink. Let's talk about expressing peels. So our orange and our lemon. So when you grab a lemon, your knife is a little bit more dangerous. So if you have a peeler, that's the best thing to use. But if you have a knife, what you want to do is you want to make sure that no fruit is exposed when you're peeling it. It's only just the pith. So let's show you how to peel. So I always say top to bottom, nose to navel. People have different ways to describe it, but let's start from the top and go to the bottom. And you want to keep this knife kicked away. You don't want to dig in too much, because if you dig in, then you're going to expose fruit. And when you express oils over the top of your cocktail, when fruit is involved, you're going to add extra acidity, extra juice. And we don't want that, because we've already made a perfect cocktail that's balanced correctly. We don't want to impart any more acidity. So we only are wanting those essential oils from the peel. So let's peel one. So this is on a lemon, top to bottom. Nice peel, no fruit exposed. Let's do an orange. Same thing, we've done one before. You can see it's all pith, no fruit. Top to bottom. A peeler is a lot easier to use than a knife. I've used a knife for a while, so I know how to finesse it a little bit. It takes a little bit more work, and it can be a little bit more dangerous, but in a pinch, a knife is great. But let's really use our peeler. See, we've got no fruit here exposed, all pith. And when you're zesting your cocktail, this is very important. I've said it before in regards to a few cocktails that we've made, but when you express oils over the drink, that's the first experience outside of sight that a customer sees when they experience a cocktail. When they see a cocktail come across the room, they're seeing it looks pretty, maybe they want to order one, but when they pick the cocktail up, they're smelling before they taste. So it's important to express our oils over these drinks. So 6 to 8 inches above the drink, we want to make sure that we're pointing it with the skin side facing the drink, not this way with the pith, because there's no oils in here, right? So just give it a nice pinch. And you're expressing essential oils. I like to always, after doing that, twist it a little bit over the top of the drink just to pull all those oils out. And then take the outside of the fruit and rub the rim so that every angle the customer is sipping the cocktail, they're pulling in those essential oils and smelling those aromas. Same thing with the lemon. Expressing those oils from the outside, twisting it. And let's talk about when we're making a French 75 or your Tiger 75 in this case. After, if you want to rim the fruit on top of the glass, take the fruit peel and twist it. You don't want to twist it too much, especially with a lemon peel. An orange peel can handle that a little bit more, but a lemon peel, you want to be subtle but firm. Hold it for a few seconds, just twisting it, almost like you're trying to wrap it around a straw. And then let it go, and you'll have a nice little twist, and then you can rest it upon your glass, like that. So we want to do that for our French 75s. Or you're making your blueberry lemon drop. Let's talk about dilution and ice a little bit, and about shaking. So we have our little half moon ice here. This is in Hammond. In Baton Rouge, you have some small cubes. These ice shapes break down cocktails and spirits a little bit differently, but pretty much the same. So the first thing we want to do is, when we're shaking a cocktail outside of the cocktails that are getting soda topped on or sparkling wine topped on, every cocktail that is not getting soda or sparkling wine, you want to take a full scoop of ice and fill it to the top. You don't want to do a half ounce or a small portion because it's not going to dilute properly. You need proper dilution when you're shaking your cocktails or stirring your cocktails. Every time we make a cocktail that doesn't have soda water or sparkling wine, we want to make sure that we have a full scoop of ice. So let's do that right now. This is one full scoop of ice in here. When we close our tin as well, you want to make sure that you're not going straight down. You want to make sure that you're coming in at an angle. Seal it and make sure that you're pouring your ingredients in your small shaker, not your large shaker. And I'll tell you why in a second. So you want to make sure that you have a clean line right here. Do you see that? You don't want, I can't get it off because it's such a tight seal. What you don't want is straight down like this, because this will pop off and you will have a disaster on your hands. If you shake it this way with a small shaker facing the bar top, you have a tendency of making this small shaker pop out and explode onto a guest. It's happened to me before. Take my advice and reverse it and make sure that your shaker is at an angle right here. When we shake, you want to roll, so to speak. So your ice, the way it's diluting is, it's almost like a ping pong effect where your ice is bouncing from one side to another. So when you shake, you can shake with one hand. You want to roll it. Or you can do two hands if it feels more comfortable. But you still want to roll it. But if you go straight, that can sometimes cause the ice to shard and fracture quickly, and then you have an over-diluted drink, and just it can taste disjointed. And we just want consistently quality tasting cocktails. So we want to seal it tightly to where it's one clean line, no angles. Keep your large tin facing out, because if this pops off, at least it's going to pop off towards the back and not towards the guest. Also, when you're building a cocktail, build it in front of your guests. They came here to sit at your bar to watch you make a cocktail. I always like to say cocktail forward when you're building. Let's build it in front of the guests. We don't want to turn our back, build cocktails back here, grab glass here. It just is a bad look. So we just want to make sure that we're building our cocktail, that we're set up properly in front of us, and we're building a cocktail in front of our guests. And I always like to say, once you have a full tin of ice, a good 10-second shake. You don't have to count every time, but I think over time you're going to find that rhythm and find that timing. When you're shaking a cocktail that is being topped with soda water or sparkling wine, half a scoop of ice, not a full scoop, and half the amount of shaking time. So if you did 10 seconds with a full scoop of ice, if you're using soda or sparkling wine, half a scoop of ice and maybe 5 seconds. You just want enough to dilute and chill your ingredients. You don't want to over dilute it and over water it, because you're already going to add water or sparkling wine at the end. So the last thing that any guests want, or you want, is to have a over watered cocktail. You want to have a flavorful, fully balanced cocktail. Let's talk about stirring our cocktails. So when you have a nice spiraled spoon, This does all the work for you, and all the work should come from your wrist as well. So like we mentioned about our jigger, where it's an extension of our arm or our hand, your spoon should be an extension of your wrist. So this glass is filled with ice and water. So when we stir, you don't want to move your hand in one motion like this. All that's causing is over quickly diluting your cocktail. You want to rest it against the back of the glass, your spoon facing inward. And when you pinch it like this and put it between your thumb and your pointer finger, are pinching it with it resting against your middle finger. If you just move your wrist like this, the spirals are going to spin between your fingers and you're stirring it properly. And when stirring a cocktail, typically, let's say you're making a Manhattan or an old fashioned or a Negroni, whatever stirred cocktail, 25 seconds. Again, you'll fall into motion. You'll learn that timing. That's how you stir a cocktail. Let's talk about when we use our Hawthorne strainer and or mesh strainer. So this is your Hawthorne strainer. Hawthorne strainer has these coils on top, and this helps to keep ice bits out, fruit, mint, whatever is in that glass that is not your spirits or citrus or sugar. When you're using your Hawthorne strainer, it's best to use by itself when you don't have any muddled ingredients in it. When you pour it out, only liquid should come out. When you use your mesh strainer, should be for two things. When you're juicing your fresh citrus, it keeps the pulp out. When you keep that pulp out, when you strain the pulp out, you're getting a little bit extra length on your citrus juice, and also you're removing a little bit extra bitterness and acidity. So you want to be able to, you want to make sure that you're always mesh straining your citrus when you're juicing. Also, you're using this double straining. So you're using your Hawthorne strainer, two different types of strainers. So Hawthorne strainer, this one here, and then your mesh strainer. You use this to keep out muddled ingredients. So there's maybe a little bit of different thought on this, where if you get a nice ice cold martini, people think that if I have my ice shards in my martini, then it's a better, more cold martini. Maybe yes and no. What's going to ultimately happen is you're going to have an over-diluted martini over time because those ice shards are going to turn into water. We want to make sure that we're chilling our glassware before, because if you have a nice ice cold martini glass and you have properly shaken and or stirred your martini, the cocktail is just going to be just as cold. The ice shards over time, though, will over-dilute and add water to your drink, therefore a watery cocktail. Also, the other time to use this mesh strainer is, like I said before, if we muddle mint or fruit. If you're on a first date or any date and you're sitting down sipping a cocktail and you sip a cocktail that has muddled strawberry or fruit or mint in it and that is in your teeth, I really don't think that that is a good look, and I think that you would probably agree with me. So it's very important that we make a beautifully presented cocktail and we double strain those ingredients out. And you will notice after you use this mesh strainer how much gunk is left in here. We toss that out and we rinse it out and start fresh. You always want a beautifully presented cocktail. You're going to garnish it with your strawberry. You're going to garnish it with your mint. You're going to garnish it with fruit. Your garnish, that fruit is going to be there. Let the garnish speak for itself. You don't need all of that extra bits floating in your glass. That's a sloppy step, it's a sloppy cocktail, and it doesn't look good. And frankly, if you're posting it on your TikTok or Instagram, I wouldn't want to like that photo if I saw a bunch of gunk in that cocktail. Beautifully garnished cocktail with a double strained presentation is the way to go, always, trust me. Let's talk about labeling and dating your syrups and your juices. This is very important, very, very important. When you make a simple syrup, that should last you roughly 30 days. I would say up to 30 days, no days past that. So when you're prepping and stirring your simple syrup and making it, take a piece of tape, label it the date that you did, stick it on top of the lid. That way when you're done stirring it and it's fully diluted, you can cap it, put it in your fridge, you know when it was made. Typically you might go through that syrup in a day, maybe a day and a half. But that's why we batch by quart container. It's easy to keep track of. It's easy to go through. You're not making too much or making almost just right. always check that date. And when you batch further, if you have a newer date, a fresher date, just put that behind the older ones. Make sure that we are properly using them in the correct sequence. When you're batching your citrus, when you're juicing your lemon and lime juice, I would say 2 days is best, 3 days tops. 2 to 3 days. There's sometimes maybe 4 days. Over time, you maybe don't have to taste your citrus, but you can definitely smell when it's not good anymore. Always, always, always double strain through your mesh strainer, your pulp out, and label and date your citrus juice. Fresh citrus is key to a great cocktail. It separates a good cocktail from a horrible cocktail. You want a great cocktail. You want a fantastic cocktail. Fresh citrus is always key. Make sure you label and date your citrus so that you have a fresh citrus cocktail. Let's talk about muddling. So you have great muddlers here. This is a flat muddler. There are some muddlers that you've seen that have rigid ends or teeth on them. Flat muddlers are best, and so you really won't have to worry about this too much. But when you muddle mint, you want to make sure that your mint in glass, when you're muddling it, you're not stabbing it and pushing it and pulverizing it, because mint is soft and subtle and very aromatic. If you over muddle mint, it's just going to taste bitter, and you're going to lose every fresh essence of mint, and you're just going to taste bitter green. So when using a flat muddler, which is best for any muddling, but especially mint or any herbs, if you muddle thyme or rosemary or sage, doesn't matter. When using a flat muddler, placing it down and twisting, place and twist, that's all you need to do to release juice, essential oils, any aromatics. All you have to do, if you pulverize, you're going to over bitter whatever you're muddling, and your cocktail is going to taste bitter, and it's not going to taste fresh. It's not going to taste good, frankly. If something's going to be off, just a soft touch. Set and twist, that's all you need to do. Muddling 101.